Life ain't gonna hand you nothing. It's not gonna roll out the red carpet, pour you a glass of success and say, here you go, take it easy. No, life is a fight, it's a test. And every single day you're stepping into the ring, whether you're ready or not. You're stepping into the fire, whether you asked for it or not. So the question is, are you gonna break or are you gonna build? Are you gonna fold under pressure or are you gonna rise up and stand tall? Because let me tell you something, mental strength, that's the foundation. That's the core. That's the thing that separates the ones who make it from the ones who don't. And I'm not talking about just making it in terms of money, in terms of status. I'm talking about making it in terms of peace, in terms of fulfillment, in terms of looking in that mirror every morning and being proud of the person looking back. See, the mind, that's where it all begins. It's where the wars are won before the battle even starts. You strengthen the mind and you strengthen everything else. So, how do you do that? How do you build a mind that doesn't quit? A mind that doesn't crumble under pressure? A mind that stands tall, that fights, that overcomes? First, you got to embrace discomfort. Understand this. Growth only happens when you step into the unknown. When you do things that make your hands shake, that make your heart pound, that make you question if you're even capable. Because that's where the power is. That's where the strength is. You cannot stay in your comfort zone and expect to evolve. You cannot do the same things over and over again and expect different results. You got to lean into the struggle, into the pain, because that's the training ground. That's where the champions are built. Second, discipline. Oh, I know that word makes some people uncomfortable. Because discipline means doing what you need to do even when you don't feel like it. And let me tell you something. You are not always going to feel like it. You are not always going to wake up excited. You are not always going to be motivated. But discipline steps in when motivation checks out. Discipline is waking up at 5 a.m. when the bed is warm and the dreams are sweet. Discipline is choosing the grind over the excuse. Discipline is saying, I don't care how I feel, I'm getting it done. And the more disciplined you are, the stronger your mind becomes. Third, stop making excuses. Stop blaming your past, your circumstances, the people who doubted you. Stop waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity, the perfect conditions. Because let me tell you the truth, there is no perfect time. There is no perfect moment. There is only now. And you either make it happen or you don't. You either get up, get moving, and get after it, or you sit back and watch somebody else do it. Fourth, control your thoughts. Your mind is a battlefield, and if you don't take control of it, the world will. The doubts, the fears, the negativity, it's all trying to take you down. And if you let it, it will. So you got to stand guard at the door of your mind. You got to feed it with power, with confidence, with belief. You got to shut down the voice that tells you you're not good enough. You got to kill the doubt before it kills your dream, because the strongest people, they don't let their thoughts control them. They control their thoughts. Fifth, embrace failure. Oh, I know that one stings, because nobody likes to fail. Nobody likes to fall flat on their face. But let me tell you something. You cannot be mentally strong if you are afraid to fail. Because failure is not the enemy. Fear is. Failure is the lesson. Failure is the teacher. Failure is the thing that sharpens you, molds you, makes you better. The only real failure is the failure to try. The only real failure is the one who gives up. Sixth, protect your energy. You cannot be mentally strong if you are surrounded by negativity. If you are constantly around people who drain you, who doubt you, who bring you down, you got to cut them off. You got to distance yourself. You got to surround yourself with people who uplift you, who challenge you, who push you to be better, because energy is contagious. And if you're not careful, the wrong energy will pull you down before you even realize it. Seventh, take responsibility. This is your life, your choices, your actions, nobody else's. The moment you stop blaming, the moment you stop pointing fingers, is the moment you take back your power. Because when you take responsibility, you take control. And when you take control, you take command of your destiny. Eighth, stay hungry. Never settle. Never get too comfortable, because the moment you think you've made it, the moment you think you've arrived, that's the moment you start to fall. The greatest athletes, the greatest minds, the greatest leaders, they never stop pushing. They never stop growing. They never stop reaching for the next level. And that hunger, that fire, that drive, that's what keeps them at the top. Ninth, train your body, because the mind and the body, they are connected. If you neglect your body, you weaken your mind. If you are feeding yourself garbage, sitting around all day, treating your health like an afterthought, you are making yourself. Movement is power, strength is power, energy is power, and when you take care of your body, you take care of your mind. And finally, believe. Believe in yourself when nobody else does. Believe in your vision when the world laughs at it. Believe in your ability to rise, to overcome, to become everything you were meant to be, because belief is the foundation. Belief is the fuel. And if you don't believe, nobody else will. So I'll leave you with this. Mental strength is not something you are born with. It's something you build. It's something you forge. It's something you earn every single day. It's in the way you think, the way you act, the way you push through when everything in you is screaming to quit. Because life is going to test you. Life is going to push you to your limits. But if you train your mind, if you build that unshakable, unbreakable mindset, you will not be stopped. You will not be broken. You will not be defeated. You will rise. You will conquer. You will win. You ever notice how the greatest people in the world, the strongest, the most unshakable, those people didn't get there by staying comfortable? No, they got there because they stepped into the fire. They walked into the storm. They embraced discomfort like an old friend, because they understood something that most people spend their whole lives running from. Comfort is a trap. Comfort is the thing that keeps you small, that keeps you weak, that keeps you living at a fraction of your potential. So your mind is wired to keep you safe. It's built for survival, not success. It wants to keep you warm, keep you secure, keep you in a little bubble where nothing can touch you. And that might have worked 1,000 years ago when danger was lurking around every corner. But today that same wiring is keeping you from growing, keeping you from becoming who you were meant to be. Because let's be real, you don't grow in comfort. You don't get stronger when things are easy. You don't develop character when everything is going your way. No, you grow when you struggle. You grow when you're uncomfortable, when you're tired, when you're frustrated, when you're standing at the edge of your limits and something inside you says, keep going. Think about it. Every time you've leveled up in life, every time you've overcome something big, what was the common factor? It wasn't because things were easy. It was because you faced something hard. Because you got knocked down and made the decision to get back up. Because you put yourself in a situation that forced you to adapt, forced you to stretch, forced you to dig deeper than you ever had before. That's where the power is. But most people spend their whole lives avoiding that feeling. The second they feel discomfort, they run. The second things get tough, they back down. They don't realize that the very thing they're running from is the thing they need the most. That fear, that struggle, that's the weight room for your mind. That's the training ground. And every time you run from it, you're missing an opportunity to get stronger. Look at the most successful people in any field, the athletes, the leaders, the visionaries. They all have one thing in common. They willingly put themselves in uncomfortable situations every single day. They train when they don't feel like it. They step up when they're afraid. They take on challenges that most people would avoid, because they know that discomfort is the price of greatness. That's why some people rise and some people stay the same. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not even intelligence. It's the ability to sit in discomfort and keep moving forward. The ability to look fear in the eye and say, I see you, but you don't control me. And it starts with the small things, because mental strength isn't built in a day. It's built in the little moments. The moments when you push yourself just a little harder. When you wake up early, even though your bed is calling your name. When you do one more rep at the gym, even though your muscles are screaming. When you choose to speak up, even though your voice is shaking. Every single time you choose discomfort over ease, you are building something inside of you that cannot be broken. But if you don't, if you keep taking the easy road, if you keep choosing comfort, keep avoiding challenges, keep staying where it's safe, you're getting weaker. Every time you hit snooze, every time you make an excuse, every time you back down from a challenge, you are making it harder for yourself to step up when it really matters. Because life is not going to wait for you to be ready. Life is going to come at you whether you're prepared or not. And if you haven't trained yourself to handle discomfort, to stand strong in the face of adversity, you're going to crumble when the real storms hit. So you got to start now. You got to start today. And it doesn't have to be some big dramatic thing. You don't have to climb a mountain tomorrow. You don't have to run a marathon next week. Just start small. Start by doing something every day that makes you uncomfortable. Take a cold shower. Wake up an hour earlier. Say yes to something that scares you. Put yourself in situations where you are forced to grow. And when your mind starts screaming, when your body starts begging you to quit, that's when you dig deep. That's when you remind yourself why you started. Because every time you push through, every time you lean into that discomfort instead of running from it, you are rewiring your brain. You are training yourself to be the kind of person who does not back down, the kind of person who does not break, the kind of person who is not controlled by fear. And let me tell you something, once you start building that muscle, once you start proving to yourself that you can handle whatever comes your way, nothing will stop you. Nothing will shake you. Because you will know deep in your core that you are built for this, that you were made for more, that you can handle anything. But you got to do the work. You got to step up. You got to stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for things to be easy. Stop waiting for permission. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is going to do the work for you. It's on you. So the next time you feel uncomfortable, the next time you feel afraid, the next time that little voice in your head tells you to quit, don't. Step into it, lean into it, because that is where the magic happens. That is where the real growth begins. And if you have the courage to embrace that, if you have the courage to step into the fire instead of running from it, there is no limit to what you can become. That's the difference between the people who succeed and the people who don't. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not intelligence. It's discipline. The ability to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. That's what separates the great from the average. That's what determines who makes it and who spends their life making excuses. Because let me tell you something. You are not always going to feel like it. You are not always going to wake up excited, energized, ready to go. Some days you're going to feel tired. Some days you're going to feel frustrated. Some days your mind is going to come up with every excuse in the book to stop you from putting in the work. Discipline? Discipline is stepping up anyway. Discipline is getting up when you want to sleep in. Discipline is grinding when you'd rather relax. Discipline is showing up for yourself every single day, no matter how you feel. See, motivation is great, but motivation is temporary. Motivation comes and goes. It's easy to be motivated when everything is going your way. It's easy to be motivated when you're excited, when you're fresh, when the goal is new and shiny. But what happens when the excitement fades? What happens when the grind gets hard? What happens when you don't feel like it anymore? That's where discipline kicks in. Because discipline is the thing that carries you through when motivation disappears. Discipline is the thing that keeps you going when your mind is telling you to quit. Discipline is the difference between a dream and a reality. Everybody wants success. Everybody wants to win. But only the discipline actually put in the work to make it happen. And here's the thing. Discipline is not something you're born with. It's not something you either have or you don't. Discipline is a muscle. And just like any muscle, it gets stronger the more you use it. The more you train it, the more it becomes second nature. The more you say no to excuses, the easier it becomes to push through the next time. But if you don't train it, if you give in every time you feel tired, every time you feel unmotivated, every time things get tough, that muscle gets weaker. And the weaker it gets, the harder it becomes to get yourself back on track. That's why so many people start and stop. They go hard for a few days, a few weeks, maybe even a few months. Well, second life gets in the way. They fall off because they never built the discipline to keep going when it got hard. Discipline is built in the moments when nobody is watching, when nobody is pushing you, when nobody is holding you accountable but yourself. It's built in the small choices, the little decisions you make every single day. Do you hit snooze or do you get up? Do you eat junk or do you fuel your body with what it needs? Do you make an excuse or do you get the job done? Every choice, every decision, it all adds up. That's why you got to hold yourself to a higher standard. Stop waiting for somebody else to push you. Stop waiting for somebody else to hold you accountable. You got to be your own leader. You got to be your own coach. You got to have the kind of self-discipline that doesn't need somebody standing over your shoulder telling you what to do. Because the people who win, they don't wait for motivation. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They don't wait for somebody to give them permission. They create the moment. They show up every single day, no matter what. They do the work when it's hard. They do the work when it's boring. They do the work when it's the last thing they want to do. And that's the secret. It's not about being the most talented. It's not about being the smartest. It's about being the most consistent, about having the discipline to show up, to grind, to push yourself further than you thought possible. That's what makes the difference. Because discipline is not about punishment. It's not about restriction. Discipline is about freedom. When you have discipline, you have control over your life. You have control over your habits. You have control over your future. You don't let circumstances dictate your actions. You don't let emotions control your decisions. You do what needs to be done because you know that's what it takes. But if you don't have discipline, if you let your emotions run the show, if you only work when you feel like it, you're a slave to your moods. You're at the mercy of your excuses. You're stuck in the same cycle wondering why you're not making progress. And let's be real, it's not easy. If it were easy, everybody would do it. But that's the point. That's what makes it valuable. That's what makes it rare. That's what makes the people who have it stand out. Discipline is a choice. And every day you have the opportunity to make that choice. You have the opportunity to prove to yourself that you are stronger than your excuses, that you are stronger than your doubts, that you are stronger than your feelings. And the more you make that choice, the easier it becomes. The more disciplined you become, the more unstoppable you are. So ask yourself, how bad do you want it? Because wanting it isn't enough. Dreaming about it isn't enough. You got to be willing to do the work. You got to be willing to grind. You got to be willing to be disciplined, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. And if you do that, if you commit to that, if you train yourself to be disciplined no matter what, there is no limit to what you can achieve. That's the problem with most people. They have all the potential in the world, all the talent, all the ability, but they never get anywhere because they spend more time making excuses than taking action. They blame their past, their circumstances, their situation. They point the finger at everything except the one thing that's really holding them back, themselves. It's always something, isn't it? I don't have enough time. I don't have the right connections. I didn't grow up in the right environment. I'm too old. I'm too young. Excuse after excuse after excuse. And what they don't realize is that every time they say those words, every time they buy into those lies, they're making themselves weaker. They're giving up their power. They're putting their success, their future, their life in the hands of things they cannot control. But let me tell you something. Everybody has a reason to quit. Everybody has an excuse they could use. Everybody has something in their life that could hold them back. But the difference between those who make it and those who don't, the ones who make it refuse to let their excuses define them. They refuse to let their past control their future. They refuse to sit around and wait for life to hand them an opportunity on a silver platter. You ever notice how the most successful people in the world didn't start with the best circumstances? You ever notice how they weren't born into success, weren't handed success, weren't given a free ride? You ever notice how they had every reason to quit, but they didn't? Why? Because they refused to make excuses. They refused to accept limitations. They refused to let their situation dictate their outcome. Look at the greats. Look at the champions. They all had struggles. They all had obstacles. They all had moments where they could have thrown in the towel and said, this isn't fair. Life isn't fair, but they didn't. They got up, they fought back, they found a way, because at the end of the day, you have two choices. You can make progress or you can make excuses, but you can't do both. You can't sit around complaining about how hard it is and expect things to change. You can't spend your time blaming the world and expect success to just land in your lap. See, the people who win in life are the ones who take responsibility. They don't waste time focusing on what they can't control. They focus on what they can control. They don't waste energy blaming the past. They use that energy to create their future. They don't sit around waiting for the right moment, the right conditions, the right opportunity. They take action. They make the moment right. You have to understand, life doesn't care about your excuses. Life doesn't care that you had a rough childhood. Life doesn't care that things didn't go your way. Life doesn't care about how unfair it all seems. It just keeps moving. Time keeps ticking. And the longer you spend making excuses, the more time you waste. Because the truth is, there will never be a perfect time. There will never be a perfect situation. If you're waiting for everything to be easy, for everything to line up perfectly before you start, you're going to be waiting forever. You don't need more time. You don't need more resources. You don't need better circumstances. You need to stop making excuses and start making moves. You need to start where you are with what you have and do what you can. Because the people who succeed, they didn't start with everything. They started with whatever they had and built from there. Somebody out there has less than you but is doing more. Somebody out there had it worse than you but found a way. Somebody out there has every reason to quit, but they keep going. So what's stopping you? Nothing but your own mindset. Nothing but the excuses you've been telling yourself for years. And the worst part, most of the excuses people make aren't even real. They're just fears dressed up as logic. They're just doubts disguised as reasons. People say they don't have enough time, but they spend hours watching TV, scrolling through their phone, doing things that add no value to their life. People say they don't have enough money, but they waste money on things they don't need. People say they don't have the right connections, but they never put themselves out there, never reach out, never take the first step. So what's the real problem? The problem isn't the excuse. The problem is you're afraid of failing, afraid of looking stupid. Afraid of stepping outside your comfort zone, and instead of admitting that fear, instead of facing it head on, you cover it up with excuses. But if you want to be great, if you want to be successful, if you want to be mentally strong, you have to stop lying to yourself. You have to stop hiding behind excuses. You have to take full responsibility for your life and your choices. Because the moment you do that, the moment you say, I am in control, and I will not let my excuses define me, that's the moment everything changes. So what if you don't have the perfect situation? So what if things are hard? So what if you don't feel ready? Nobody ever feels ready. Nobody ever has it all figured out. The people who succeed, they take action anyway. They move forward anyway. They find solutions instead of excuses. And the beautiful thing, once you start doing that, once you start proving to yourself that you can figure it out, that you can push through, that you can make it work, those excuses start to disappear. That self-doubt starts to fade, because now you're no longer just talking. Now you're showing yourself what you're capable of. So stop making excuses, stop waiting, stop holding yourself back, because the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the story you keep telling yourself about why you can't have it. Change the story. Change your mindset and watch how fast your life changes with it. You have to control your emotions, or your emotions will control you. Most people go through life being ruled by their feelings. If they feel good, they do good. If they feel bad, they do nothing. They let their emotions dictate their actions instead of making decisions based on discipline, logic, or purpose. And that's why they stay stuck. That's why they never reach their full potential. Because they don't realize that emotions are temporary, but the consequences of letting them control you can last a lifetime. Think about it. How many times have you made a decision in the heat of the moment that you regretted later? How many times have you let anger, frustration, or sadness push you into saying something, doing something, or quitting something that you later wish you hadn't? That's what happens when you let emotions take the wheel. They don't think long term. They don't care about logic. They just react. And if you're not careful, they will lead you down a path that you never intended to go. But the strongest people, the mentally tough, they don't operate that way. They don't let their emotions make decisions for them. They acknowledge their feelings, but they don't let those feelings control their actions. They understand that emotions are like waves. They come and go. They rise and fall. And if you let every wave knock you down, you will never move forward. You can feel angry and still stay calm. You can feel frustrated and still make the right decision. That's what it means to have emotional control. Doesn't mean you don't feel anything. It doesn't mean you ignore your emotions. It means you don't let them dictate your behavior. Look at the most successful people in the world, the great leaders, the top athletes, the people who perform under pressure. They all have one thing in common. They have mastered their emotions. They don't let fear stop them. They don't let frustration slow them down. They don't let doubt paralyze them. They take control of their mindset, and because of that, they stay steady when everyone else is falling apart. But emotional control isn't something that happens overnight. It's something you have to build. It's something you have to practice every single day, because life is going to test you. People are going to push your buttons. Things are going to happen that make you want to snap, to quit, to react emotionally. And in those moments, you have a choice. You can let the emotion take over, or you can take control. Start by recognizing the patterns. Pay attention to the moments when your emotions try to take over. Maybe it's when someone disrespects you. Maybe it's when you fail at something. Maybe it's when things aren't going your way. Whatever it is, recognize it, because once you recognize it, you can start training yourself to respond differently. Take a deep breath. Pause before you react. Give yourself a moment to process before you make a decision, because the difference between a smart decision and a regretful one is often just a few seconds of thinking. That pause, that moment of self-awareness, is what separates those who control their emotions from those who are controlled by them. You have to ask yourself, is this feeling real or is it temporary? Is this reaction going to help me or is it going to hurt me? Is this emotion leading me in the right direction or is it just trying to get a reaction out of me? The more you question your emotions, the more power you take back from them. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about ignoring emotions. This isn't about pretending you don't feel anything. It's about understanding that emotions are signals, not commands. They tell you what's going on inside of you, but they don't get to decide what you do next. You do. Think about a soldier in battle. Think about a firefighter running into a burning building. Think about a surgeon in the middle of a life or death operation. Do you think they don't feel fear? Do you think they don't feel pressure? Of course they do, but they don't let it stop them. They don't let it control them, because they know that in those moments, their actions matter more than their feelings. The same is true in your life. Your emotions might be loud, but they don't have to be in charge. You do. And once you learn to master that, once you learn to stay calm under pressure, once you learn to push forward even when you don't feel like it, that's when you become unstoppable. The world is full of people who let their emotions run their lives, people who get angry and make reckless decisions, people who feel sad and give up on their goals, people who let fear keep them stuck. But that's not going to be you, because you understand something they don't. You understand that emotions are just weather. They change, they pass. But the people who win, the people who achieve great things, they don't let a passing storm stop them from reaching their destination. And here's the truth. Nobody else can do this for you. Nobody else can teach you self-control. Nobody else can regulate your emotions for you. It's on you. You have to do the work. You have to build the discipline. You have to decide right now that from this moment forward, you will not be controlled by your feelings. Because when you make that decision, When you commit to that level of self-mastery, that's when you step into real power. That's when you become the kind of person who stays steady when others fall apart. The kind of person who doesn't break under pressure. The kind of person who moves forward no matter what. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Life is going to hit you hard. There's no avoiding it. There's no escaping it. At some point, you're going to experience failure. You're going to feel disappointment. You're going to lose people you love. You're going to struggle. And in those moments, you have a choice. You can let the pain break you, or you can let it build you. Most people, they run from pain. They try to avoid it at all costs. They look for shortcuts, easy ways out, anything to escape discomfort. They distract themselves with entertainment, with bad habits, with anything that numbs the sting of reality. But all that does is make them weaker. All that does is keep them stuck. Because pain is not the enemy, pain is the teacher. Pain is the thing that will make you stronger if you let it. Look at anybody who has achieved greatness, anybody who has reached the highest level in their field, and I guarantee you, they have been through pain. They have been through struggle. They have been tested, and they came out on the other side, not because they avoided pain, but because they faced it head on. They endured, they grew, they used the pain to fuel them. That's the difference between the weak and the strong. The weak see pain as a stop sign, the strong see it as a green light. The weak complain about their struggles, the strong use their struggles to get better. The weak let pain define them, the strong let pain refine them. Because here's the truth, pain is not permanent. No matter how bad it feels in the moment, it will pass. But what you do with that pain, that's what matters. Do you let it break you, or do you let it make you better? Think about a muscle. If you never put stress on it, if you never challenge it, it never grows. But when you lift heavy, when you push through that burn, when you force your muscles to adapt, that's when they get stronger. The same is true for your mind. The same is true for your character. You don't grow by avoiding struggle. You grow by facing it, by going through it, by coming out the other side stronger than before. And I know when you're in it, when the pain is fresh, when you feel like you can't take another hit, it's hard to see past it. It's hard to believe that something good can come from it. But every struggle, every hardship, every challenge, it's all shaping you into the person you need to become. You might not see it now, but one day you'll look back and realize that the thing you thought was breaking you was actually building you. The moment you wanted to quit was the moment that made you stronger. The pain you thought would never end was the pain that prepared you for the next level. That's why you can't run from it. You can't avoid it. You can't let it control you. You have to embrace it. You have to lean into it. You have to decide right now that no matter what life throws at you, no matter how hard it gets, you will not break. You will not quit. You will not let pain win, because pain is temporary, regret is forever. And if you let pain stop you, if you let it convince you to give up, to play small, to settle, you will look back one day and realize that the only thing worse than the pain of struggle is the pain of knowing you could have done more, but you didn't. You could have pushed through, but you didn't. You could have been great, but you let the pain get the best of you. You are stronger than you think. You are more capable than you realize, but you will never know your true strength until you go through the fire, until you face the pain, until you push past the limits your mind is trying to put on you. Pain is the test. Life is watching to see what you'll do when things get hard. Will you fold? Will you give in? Or will you rise? Will you keep going? Will you prove to yourself and the world that no matter what happens, you are unbreakable? That choice is yours. And every time you choose to keep pushing, every time you refuse to let pain stop you, every time you take the hit and keep moving forward, you become stronger, you become tougher, you become unstoppable. Because the people who win in life, they're the ones who learn how to turn their pain into power. They're the ones who took every struggle, every setback, every hardship and used it as fuel. They didn't let it destroy them, they let it drive them, and now it's your turn. What are you going to do with your pain? Will you let it break you, or will you let it build you? Will you let it keep you down, or will you use it to rise? That decision will define the rest of your life. At the end of the day, everything comes down to one simple truth. Your mind is your greatest weapon, your strongest shield, and your most dangerous enemy. Everything you want, everything you dream of, everything you're capable of achieving, it all starts and ends with your mindset. You can have all the talent in the world, all the skills, all the opportunities, but if your mind is weak, you will never reach your full potential. If you let excuses control you, if you let emotions dictate your actions, if you let pain break you instead of build you, you will always fall short of what you're truly capable of. But if you learn to take responsibility for your life, if you stop making excuses and start making moves, if you build the discipline to do what needs to be done regardless of how you feel, there is nothing in this world that can stop you. Nothing, because once you master your mind, you master your life. This is not just about being strong today. This is about becoming the kind of person who can handle anything, who doesn't back down, who doesn't fold under pressure, who doesn't let fear, doubt, or pain dictate their future. This is about creating a mindset that will carry you through every storm, every obstacle, every challenge that life throws at you. So from this moment forward, no more excuses, no more waiting, no more letting your emotions control your destiny. Take the lessons, apply them, and make the decision right here, right now, that you will be stronger, that you will push through, that you will do what needs to be done no matter what. Because the moment you make that decision, that's the moment your entire life begins to change.